How's it going, internet? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation, time to get that imagination all cranked up, get into some creativity, and it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Earl Oliver Hurst. And if you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. He is such a wonderful artist. I love his use of color. He really has a lovely way to render the female character. I know that he worked with a lot of fashion magazines and advertisements in the early, I want to say 1920s, but the early part of the 1900s. So let's take a look at a couple of his wonderful pieces. Like I said, I really like his choice of colors. Something about the time when he worked that really had these, you had a smaller color palette that you could print. It wasn't as wide of a variety as, say, something in the digital age where you have Photoshop and all these just huge range of colors. You have kind of a simpler color palette, but all the colors really pop and they're really bright. I tend to use a lot of more earth tones or dull tones, which tend to speak to me, but that doesn't mean that I love this kind of style as well. It's just not my personal, how I tend to do things, but I really, really love it. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. I feel like what he really gets across in his pieces is a sense of emotional composition, I guess would be an interesting way to say it, and that you can tell there's like an acting moment or an acting beat in his shot, but it's set up so well, almost like a bit of cinematography in his work. And you can see each one, it's kind of not necessarily 100% balanced or in perspective, or where the anatomy's on 100%. He kind of focuses more on the emotional meaning behind it and the composition to support that. And I think that's a really interesting focus. I'm not saying that the other stuff's off, but I feel like that probably was his approach to when he was creating something. You can just really see that there's definite, like, the eye line contact is really interesting there. Yeah, just beautiful. I really think he does females really interestingly, and the nice flow of his ink line is really nice too. You have this soft, small line, and then it gets thicker and thicker until it gets down there. Really nice flow of that ink, for sure. It's hard to do. This one I really liked. Just like this pose. I think that's really fun. And then again, I love when you can get a simple color palette and use it so well. So really, it's just red, black, and white. That's this piece. There's so many different hues and values of or tonality to that piece that he can use just those simple amounts of colors to get, you know, all the shadows and the highlights, and get the different can accentuate, you know, which parts are where to help better sell his composition as well. Gorgeous stuff, and really iconic of the time period as well. So let's take a look at a quote from an article that he wrote, kind of about his process, and he evidently had struggled through some tough times financially and everything through, at least from the information that's available that I could read about him, that you know, he did kind of freelancing after working for a company for a while, and then that was kind of hard to do it. But I thought there's a cool anecdote that was in one of the stories that I read, that he couldn't afford Thanksgiving turkey one year, so he made a paper turkey for his table. And I thought, and then it talked about how he and his wife had like a good sense of humor and weathered the times really well. And I thought that was so interesting to not only just not be sad about not being able to afford the big feast or the dinner for the day, but then to go to the extra effort to make a paper turkey as well. It was just a really interesting, creative way to think and to be and to exist. And that goes along with the quote that I was able to find that I really liked from him, was how you think is most important. And I would say that's completely and utterly really has a lot of truth behind it. If you're in a situation, creatively or in life, chances are you have kind of a worldview that you go with, and you know, you can You can have a lot of highs and lows, but it depends on how you approach them and how you view them. Instead of looking at things as failures, look at them as what could I learn from this and how can I grow from it, rather than being upset or frustrated by it, or when you have good things that happen, you know, to like just that it's the highs and the lows and balancing it. And you got to find out what works for you and your mentality and the things that you've learned and where you're at. But I think really trying to get at least a good grasp of not letting negativity seep in too much into your mindset is very helpful, at least for me, in being productive each and every day. For creativity, I know when I get into a negative mindset and I try to be creative, it's like it's battling for some reason. So I think it's really important to think through things. And then in the article that this came from too, he was talking more about his process creatively, and about how he, you know, would thumbnail out, do like a bunch of thumbnails, and then kind of when he was having some trouble getting clients. There was another anecdote that one of the clients said that his work was kind of not up to par or whatever. So he said, why don't you go home and make 5 versions of this and bring me all 5, and then I'll pick which one I like the best. And I guess he got kind of frustrated with that, but eventually went and did that. And what he would have done before would have just been to create the first one and put it out there and be like, well, this is what it is. But by the time he got to the 5th one, he realized like he had thought things differently each time that he approached it. And the story goes is that supposedly he took that mindset and used that for the rest of his workflow, is that he would create more than one of the finished product, and that way he could take it from different approaches and see which one was really the strongest idea. So I thought that was really interesting as well. So let's go ahead and get into some animation. This is the Warlock Ward rig. It's a free rig from the Dota 2 collection of rigs over at the Steam community. I'll throw a link in the description below if you guys want to play around with this. And yeah, if you're not familiar with what we'll be doing for the rest of the video, a little bit of hang out with me while I animate over the shoulder, just kind of talk through the process, maybe talk about something to do with the creative world in general. But the main goal of doing these videos each and every day is to hopefully encourage you guys and inspire you to go off and create your own unique, amazing, imaginative, creative content each and every day to take another step in your journey towards mastering whatever medium it is that you're passionate about. And let's go ahead and get playing. So I was thinking for this one, it's a little bit busy in life these days, so we'll do a kind of a idle cycle with a little bit of movement in here. So let's go ahead and just tweak this stuff a little bit here. I'm not going to do too much with a posing variation to start with. We'll just start kind of around here. We'll go ahead and turn everything off except for our curves, our surfaces, and our polygons here. We'll go ahead and grab everything, save our file. We are using Autodesk Maya 2014 for today's video. Let's grab everything and set our first key there. And so I think I'll go with 10s. Do a little bit of up and down here, just kind of an idle cycle. And just want to kind of rough in the timing. I think this is probably going to be too fast, and I want to give myself about 160 frames, I think, for this. Since we don't have a lot of controllers, and it's just kind of an idle. I'm not worried about going longer and not having everything maybe be as precise as if we were just sticking to kind of 48 frames. So let's see if that's too fast. I think we could probably go about 12 frames for that. So let's go Window, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. Let's push this back to 12, 24. Just felt a little fast. I think we go a little bit slower. Felt okay towards the end when we were going less value per the timing, but I think kind of a blending of pushing the timing a little bit more and shrinking down the movement is probably where I want to end up. Okay, so we put that back to being on 12s instead of on 10s, and again I just want to do kind of a real rough timing pass of how I want this thing to feel here. It's okay for it to kind of feel floaty. I kind of like that idea, so let's see. go further up higher. So let's take universally and we'll pull that down a little bit more. Should be 96 actually. And let's keep going. Put another one. 108. Right. Then 120. 122. Or sorry, 132. 144. 156. Okay, so let's just go there for just start with. Let's see. And yeah, let's go a little bit smaller with our movements. Feels like it's a little too much and too busy. That'll also make it feel slower too by doing less movement during that time. Let's see. Should we even go 14? 14, slow down even more. 28. 42. 56. Just add 2 frames on there. Don't have to do all the math. Just add 2. And push that back. And push this back. So we're going to need a couple more frames here, so let's go about more even. Let's delete whatever was there. And would that be 68? 472, 182. Let's see now. Alright, and we'll balance that out a little bit better. What I really should do is have this being starting at about 7 frames here. So it's right in the middle of the movement. And then this should be 7 frames from there, so it's 68. Be right. Let's see. And then we're going to want to try and find more of a middle ground for that starting one here. Alright, and we'll go with these guys. Should be most up here. And then down there. And 42 here. going to need to do less of that and balance it up a little better. Let's see how that feels. These ones could go down a little bit more. I want to cut it about 10% on both sides here. Feels a little better. Great, we'll balance that out a little bit better. Scale it back just a little bit. Let's see how we're doing. I think the tops need to go a little bit down. And again, we'll mix all this stuff up later. I just want to get a good base for everything working right now. Okay, and then let's go with a little bit of rotate. Z. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, and 33, right? In, 47, out, 54 would be 61, in, and back. Let's see now. Alright, a little too much. Tone it back. Balance it out a little bit more. And we'll just grab this guy. Key selected. Key selected. Just so our timing is the same. Don't have to think this way. Not that thinking is bad, but maybe don't make sure that we're hitting the same frame here. And key that. Okay. And then we'll grab every other one this one could probably be a little bit more, and the other one could probably be a little bit less. Let's see now. Alright. Like I said, a little bit less on this one. Take the translate Y's on these and cut them down a little bit more here. Let's see now. I wonder if we could do do anything here. Darn, I thought they might just pop if I push them too far. That's it. Okay. Thought we would get a little bit of ease there, but I guess not. Could do maybe a little bit here. Don't need a lot, but a little bit. And up here. Back. What am I doing here? 4102. On top. Should be great. 26. 40. 54. And go back. And I'm sure that's way too much here. Okay, so let's just do a teeny bit of that. Let's see how I feel now. Okay, we'll cut that movement down even less, just so we get some movement in those chain links here. too much there. So scale it back even more. Let's see. Let's try and get it so we're not favoring the front or the back so much. Let's see. And then we could go rotate it forward here, back there, forward here, back there, back there. Yeah, I think I just flipped it. Alright, let's see. Yeah. Okay, bring it back there, and let's see it now. Invert it. Go the other way with it. No, it should be this way. But I think it should actually start at the beginning here to have an angle with it. And let's balance that out a little better. Let's see if we're starting to get it somewhere. There we go. Starting to feel a little looser now. Okay. And we could do some rotate Y here, back there, forward here, back there. Back. There we go. Now it's starting to feel a little bit looser. Okay, and let's maybe balance that out a little better. I'm not too worried about the rotate Ys. That's just to add a little more three-dimensionality to the movement here. And let's see how that feels now. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now let's go look at this guy. Push it forward, back, forward, back. It's nice because we kind of have a template from the other side to kind of work with, and we know what we're going to be approaching here. other side, which is nice. And then I'm going to rotate Y here, right? Forward. And back here. There. Back here. Forward there. Back here. Let's see. Okay, I think the rotate Y is probably too extreme. The rest of it feels okay. I'm alright with one side being a little more active. I might exaggerate the other side though, just to give it a little more life on that side. But let's see how this is feeling now. Yeah, I feel like we could still tone this side down about 10% and the other one up about 10% and probably be feeling a little bit better. Okay, and look at this one. Take those translate Z's and we'll kick them up a little bit higher. Yeah, let's look at our translate Y's and let's vary them a little bit from side to side a little more. Not a ton, but just so there's a little more variety in how much they move up and down here. Let's see now. There, let's amp this one up still a little bit more on the rotate. Let's see. less, balance it up just a little bit more. I'm okay with a bit of variety in there. Yeah, let's look at this side. And we'll push that one out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And then back again, let's see. And then let's add a little bit of rotate forward and back on this chain here. And let's move it here. Forward there. Back here. Forward there. Back here. Forward there. Back here. Forward there. Back. Forward. 26, 33. Back. Forward here. And back there. And it needs to be less, so we definitely want to do less of that, so I'll cut that about half of what I have here. Yeah, let's see that now. I think I am going to do just a little bit of rotate Z here. And probably tone that down too, just so we can get a little bit of movement there. Okay, and we'll cut that by about half. Let's see how we're doing here. And we'll add a little bit of rotate Y here. And then I think I'll push this forward maybe 2 frames or so on everything. Maybe 3 frames. And we'll go back to where we started. Alright, yeah, we'll tone that down a little bit more. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's delay everything 1 frame. Let's see. And I think the translate Ys, I want to go a little bit less down. A little less rotate forward. did kind of want to see too is if I push this one forward just one frame here. See if that would give us enough variety there. And this one back one frame. Okay, and I think I'm going to take the translate X's here. I feel a little too wide out. So let's see what we can do about that here. More inward. That feels a little better. Okay, and let's start. We did a little more on. Hold on one second. Shift key was sticking there, so it's always good to save a duplicate version or a alternate version there, incremental version. It's always good to do too, so why not? Alright, now let's go ahead and add a little bit of rotate up and back, up and back. And we might not be able to do as much here. I wanted to do a little more on the ball, but I forgot that they were tagged to it, so I might have to build this is something we really have to not do a lot of because it's the whole rig. But I think we could get it to work. And 47 and 61, right? Okay. And this is definitely something that I don't want hardly any of, but a little teeny bit, just so we can kind of feel it. I don't really want to see it necessarily. And let's scale that back a little bit more. Let's see how it feels now. Okay, I think we could do less rotate X there too. Feels like it's still a little too much. Yeah, let's get the rotate Y. I don't really want a lot of this, but a little bit might help. And then we'll offset this a couple of frames too. Man, I gotta clean that up. I think yeah, towards the bottom I didn't balance that out very well. Okay, so like I said, we're just gonna do a smidge of this, just so it feels like that rock isn't as firmly planted on the ground as it could be, because there's so much movement in it that would be causing the rock to move. And we'll just delay that a frame there. Let's see. Alright, and let's keep cutting back, because it feels like it's moving really, and we just want it to be like kind of unsettled, not necessarily feel like it's jolting around there. Just like there's so much movement up top that would cause that rock to have a little bit of. And let's keep cutting back a little bit more. And let's see how it looks now. Like I said, just kind of a pixel variation. What they would do in 2D animation is just redraw the same frame basically with a little bit of line weight variation to show that there'd be some movement there too. Alright, so kind of a different style and different approach for this one, just kind of an idle animation. I was going to do some more, but it took a little bit longer, or we went a little bit longer. Probably could have just done 80 frames of this and then done something else too, but I think it's kind of fun. A little bit longer, a little bit of a different approach there too, this one. So before we go, let's save our file real quick, and let's create a new perspective here. Okay, polygon primitives, let's do a cylinder here, just so we have a little stand for it. And for some reason it seems like it's a little off-centered there, so we'll push it over a little bit. That's okay. So I think this one's right in the middle, isn't it? It is a little off. Okay. And in that case, let's do this. Just let me grab you controller here. Alright, I'll hide the cylinder and go back here. Nope, see, it's zeroed out, so it must have been the cylinder that I was doing. Okay, so we'll just adjust that over a little bit so it makes it feel like it's centered a little bit more there. Alright, that's okay. And then we'll copy that and Let's scale it down in Y. May have created that cylinder a little too large, so let's keep going here. Or a little too long there. Always makes it a little more difficult. That's what she said. What? I didn't say that. Okay. And bring that in a little bit. Shorten it a little bit more. And we'll copy another one. Paste another one. Make it a little bit taller. Just so we get that little bit of a beveled effect. So we have a little bit of stand for our character to be on. And then we'll assign a new material to the outside and inside. We'll put a Lambert on there. And we'll go ahead and make it a little bit darker than that one. We'll assign a new material onto there. Put another Lambert on there. Take the color, make it a little bit lighter. Actually, let's make it a little bit darker. It's blending too much into the color of. Let's do something like that instead. That's fine. And then we'll create a background so we don't have just the same default background here. We'll go back to our original perspective and nudge that or scale that up a little bit and assign a new material on there. We'll put a Lambert on there too. Make it like a muted darker blue. We're gonna go alright with our gray. Alright, that'll work. And turn our curves off and let's see how this is feeling. Yeah, I think that works for an idle animation there. So let's look back at where we started. We're looking at the beautiful work of Earl Oliver Hurst, and he said, how you think is most important. If you're getting frustrated, if you feel like you're hitting a wall in your current workflow, try just thinking in a different fashion than you've been approaching your work. So maybe focus on a different aspect of it that you could improve upon or break down and rebuild up, or go get a different book and get someone else's opinion or their take on it, because just because you've maybe developed a style that works for you right now, if you feel like you could push it further, which I think even the greatest animators, artists, illustrators, creatives, imaginative minds always think they could go a little bit further or push it a little bit farther. So the saying goes that your best thinking has got you this far. And if you're not fully satisfied with where you are in life, go read some books, go listen to some podcasts, go look at your work from upside down, flip it, look at it in a different size or different medium, listen to it on a tape recorder instead of on CD. Just there's always different things you can do to try and get a different perspective. And I think trying to view the way other people think is always beneficial in some way. Everyone has an opinion, and you have to be able to kind of filter it as well. So, just because this person says that or that person says this thing, maybe it doesn't necessarily help you, but don't I think we fall into this fallacy that unless it comes from a specific institution or a specific website that is like that's the go-to here, and that's the only opinion you'll take, and you don't take anyone else's. But I think everybody has an opinion and a perspective that's interesting, and especially if you feel like you're stuck or you feel like you could push further or you want to reach a new level in your work, it's always important to try and get some feedback and get some other people's perspectives. And like I said, if you disagree with it, you disagree with it, but maybe question yourself as to why you disagree with it too, just to help you think differently, because thinking really is critical for any sort of creative work, especially if you want to break any boundaries or try something new or different. So I love you guys lots. I'm getting rambly, I know. I think you guys are great. I hope you're taking another step in your journey towards mastering whatever medium it is that you're passionate about. And I think that'll wrap it up for today. A little bit different, but I think this one was still still fun to play around with. And keep being creative, keep being imaginative. Remember, if you're watching this, you are the creative future, so go out there and create and do it, and we will see you for some more animation when I can find the button. I found it. Woohoo! Tomorrow.